Thank you for attending today's webinar, all things OS MasterMap. I'm going to just talk through the agenda, covering the main products within the MasterMap suite and how eMapSite have produced our own products around that. The outputs, to make sure we cover off the CAD and GIS users in particular. I will very quickly highlight the PDF plans that we also have. The benefits of using that data and other data that we have within eMapSite product suite. A quick look at how to order and some of the functionality around how to get the best out of the MapShop platform. And then a very sneak peek at the back end of the presentation of our new account pages that are going live early in 2022. So during the presentation, I'm going to turn off my camera because I'll be all hands and moving around everywhere. So I'm going to turn that off for now. And I'm going to just now move across into the main platform. So this is our homepage to eMapSite. If you've not seen it before, I know there's a lot of people on the webinar this afternoon. I'm going to talk through the products, but if you do need to log in and create an account, it's just at the top right-hand side, which I'll cover off slightly later on. But where I want to focus to start with, rather than going into the platform in the first instance, is our marketing pages. We have a whole suite of product pages that go into a lot of detail, but just a kind of simple overview for a second, I'll be focusing very, very much on the MasterMap products. That's the point of the webinar today. But we've got all the scaled mapping that you require and all the formats that you require and all the additional data sets that support the whole array of projects that you will be working on. Examples like the address data, the topography data, aerial imagery, and we even tap into data from our underground utility assets as well as contaminated land flood risk from our working partnership with Groundshot for all the environmental reports. But my focus very much today is going to be around this section of our OS MasterMap. Now, everybody knows about MasterMap, and all the people on this call have interacted and used MasterMap in the past. The kind of, I suppose, the off-the-shelf topography layer. So, and we can't kind of neglect that, but just to kind of give you a quick reminder of that product. And we have that data updated on a 6-weekly cycle. So whenever you go into the map shop and order extracts of data, you can have confidence in that data. And as that data is under license, that data is licensed for a 12-month period. If you do need to use that data time and time again over the future years, we need to make sure that we're renewing that data on an annual basis. And I can go more into licensing if you want to come and talk to me individually, but it's very much important that if you are using this data and lots of the product suites within OS, that you need to make sure that that's kind of classed as licensing the data rather than buying the data. All the formats I would hope we have covered, and if for some reason we don't, then please reach out to me and we can talk about the kind of outputs that you require. But this gives you a kind of a product card, an overview of the content and the detail that's included. So I'm going to take a slight assumption that we're kind of comfortable with the core MasterMap. But what eMapSite have done is kind of, and I'll go through when we actually get into the map shop, we've kind of included in the same price, packaged up and included particularly things like the building heights, which is kind of vital for a number of the types of customers that are on the webinar today. So, and I'll show you some kind of examples of that in a while. So just make sure that the core MasterMap offering from the map shop point of view, coming in and ordering the extracts, and I'll show you some functionality around that in a second. As for the webinar, it was very much then focusing on how eMapSite have packaged up additional data sets and making that kind of an easier format for you to interact with in your own CAD software, equally from a price point. So merging data sets that are very commonly brought together, we've kind of merged those two data sets to give you one file that you need to order rather than 2 or 3. Particularly focusing today is the OS MasterMap 3D, so incorporating the Terrain 5 data, and also focusing today particularly is OS MasterMap with the land registry polygons, which I'll go on to in a second. As you can see on our product pages, there are other OS MasterMap layers and ways of extracting that data from aerial imagery, and there's a number of suppliers of aerial imagery, or just purely the water and highways network. But I'm not going to focus on those products today. So just looking briefly from a product page, for example, is the OS Terrain 5 with MasterMap. So that comes to you as a one file when you order it through eMapSite, but also you can turn on and turn off those layers. So you can still interact with it as it is, OS topography layer, but also with MasterMap. Now, if you are looking at renewable projects, for example, and you need that kind of tighter MasterMap area, then yes, people are buying those two products together. But if it's a vast area, then naturally tapping into the other vector and raster maps layers that we have, 25K, 50K, and then you can still buy OS Terrain 5 separately. But I'll show you with a few kind of screen grabs that I've taken from a kind of CAD software to see the kind of different data layers that you'll see and how the data is kind of presented in that software. But again, there are sample records here that you can take from us and interact with it, play with it in your own software before you make your next purchase. And I'll come back into this product and talk about a list a little bit more in a second. The third product I want to highlight through the presentation today is the Land Title and Tenure. Now, I'm a big fan of this, but that's kind of irrelevant. It's about the types of customers that are using this data. And I think if I asked 100 people that are regular users of eMapSite, they wouldn't necessarily know that we have this product. So hence the kind of webinar. So the landscape architects, the planning consultants, all walks of life, if you want to know the boundaries of the land registry titles, as well as the MasterMap data layers, then what we have done is produce this product. It's called eMapSite Land Title and Tenure, but ultimately it's that land registry polygon layer, but also on top of that, the kind of MasterMap. And you can look at those two layers individually. And I've got some examples I'll show you very, very shortly. So we've got the formats that you require, again, still the same, DWG, shapefile to cover off the CAD and GIS professionals that we have. But it won't tell you, if we're going to make sure we cover that off, it doesn't tell you who the actual physical owner is, the corporate commercial owner. It's telling you the boundaries of the title number, the tenure details, going into then the polygon ID and UPRN is the key data that you've got. Obviously, then you can take that title number and, if you want to, purchase the land registry ownership title plans and registers, or you can come back into eMapSite and talk to us about how we can kind of create a suitable data set for just commercial corporate ownership. So there's a number of ways of packaging up land registry, not just purchasing it with the OS MasterMap. Lots and lots of customers are using this on a regular basis, but as I've mentioned, it's if you want to know that kind of boundary within your project, especially if it's kind of neighboring land and you want to understand that kind of ownership and where the title ends and a new title begins, this is a really, really exciting product to work with, which again, I'll cover off when I get into the map shop in a second, how to order it and the different outputs that we have. So that's what I really wanted to focus on from the kind of marketing product pages. And while I'm here, I wanted to go to the top and just highlight this question mark here. This question mark here covers off contact details, of course, but also our recordings of our webinars. So you will be able to find this recording later today on here, but also previous recordings. As I mentioned, I'm not going to focus on our output of a PDF plan and the other product suites that we have, but within these webinars, we do have information on our utility reports, environmental reports, but also how to mark up and order a plan. If you're not that kind of CAD GIS professional and you just need that in a PDF version, for example, or a high resolution file like a JPEG or PNG file, then that's where you can go and access an insight on how to use it. So let's jump into eMapSite itself. If you're new, we have 3 ways of getting in. Map shop being your master map ordering, PDF plans, which I've just mentioned in here. And these are where the reports are, utilities and ground truth. If you're on a PDF, GIS, outputs. So launching into the map shop, I want to cover off those products that we particularly talked about and some key functionality that is within eMapSite. It's not a deep dive into all of them, but just some key functionality to make sure you're getting the best use out of it. So search terms, which you'll be aware of by location, tile number, reference numbers, etc. But I'm going to just type in a postcode. Just get some data. So a quick look around the map shop for a second without looking at products. First and foremost, the standard default is it comes up with a 1 kilometer box around your title of interest. If you don't have the view of MasterMap, then please contact us, because we've decided it's for you to have the best experience and understand what you're purchasing, particularly around the MasterMap products. We want to make sure that you can see what you're going to order. So I can have access to this MasterMap layer, and you can just contact us for any reason that that's not already accessed within your account. Equally, if I zoom out, you'll start seeing the different scaled mapping within other options as well. But we're going to focus very much on the MasterMap layer. So a few quick things. You don't obviously have to have a 1 kilometer box. You can change things however you wish by this pencil drawing tool here. Most popular, I guess, would be the polygon. So you can kind of define the area that you want to order. Just remember, whatever you draw, it's within the orange box is what you're going to get data back on. You can also do a line drawing. So if you're doing traffic management work and you just want to look at a particular road, you can draw your line, and then you can use the buffer functionality to define, I want to know within 10 meters of the road. So be aware that you can define your area of interest. So you're only buying the data that you need. Draw your polygon shape. If you want to, you can define your buffer around those sites. Some other things on here though, you can also just reset that to a box. If you are doing any planning applications, for example, and you need to do it to scale and you're going to put that data into a report, you can use the paper feature and you can define A4, A3, etc. in here and define your scale. So typically for a planning application, 1 to 1250 and the 1 to 500 scale. And just the only other thing I want to kind of focus on is the ability to upload your own shapefiles. So if you've already got your defined areas or you know the XY coordinates, you can plug those into the map shop. So you don't have to repopulate the area and draw the shape that you've already got defined. You can quite easily upload the shape. Just make sure you've got the appropriate formats to plug into the system. So this is my property of interest. And as you know, there's a whole suite of products in here. I've got my popular products, which I normally interact with, which are in here. But from a MasterMap point of view, they will fit in this suite of products here. So within my geography, my boundary that I've searched, here's my standard, is if you want to call it that, OS MasterMap. But then you've got my additional data layers, the topography layer, which you can see is very marginally extra. Actually, the cheapest or the smallest extract of topography data that you can order is £25. So actually packaging that data up is very cost effective. And then the third one to highlight is the Land Title and Tenure. So it's very marginally different if you need to access that polygon data. And I know, talking to the customers that I deal with, It's not every project, but as and when it is, just be aware that that data is there and it all comes across nice and cleanly for you. Picking the primary product for a second, you can see in here, we've got all the different formats from your traditional DWG, but also your GIS outputs. But if I select DWG, it gives me a number of different style options to consider, either my standard color or design. If I select my color plan, I can choose clipped or unclipped, with or without building heights. Just to be clear, there's no additional charge for that building height data layer. So just be aware that's how you would take that data. I want it with building heights. It will remember that as your kind of default ordering preference. So when you add that to the basket and you come back and order again, it will remember that kind of history and how you've gone about ordering. Now, I'm going to just quickly swap out of the platform and go across to my slides. And just to kind of illustrate, I've taken some extracts and ordered some data. I've got my data team to kindly process some examples for me and put that into sort of CAD software and bring out some illustrations of that data just to kind of visualize it for how you would see it in your own platforms. As you can see, standard color plan on the left-hand side, but then with that kind of building height data, you've got that kind of imagery on the right-hand side. You can start building up your sites of interest. Looking at the OS MasterMap with Terrain 5, we picked an extreme example in Edinburgh, the castle, etc. But just to kind of understand the illustration of the topography of the land that you're going to get, either color or standard, and then the buildings that are associated around. So if you are needing that extra level of information, less so on kind of individual sites, I guess, but if you are doing a bigger project in a bigger geographical area and you want to understand the contours and land around you, then this is kind of a very sensible option. There are other data sets for DTM use and DSM use, LiDAR data, but we've packaged up with the Terrain 5 because by far that's our most kind of popular product, and talking to customers and interacting with them over the last few years, that was what the customer wanted to kind of bring together and create one output for you. And as you know, the third product I wanted to kind of focus on is the land registry, and hopefully this is a good enough illustration. And as you can see, the property in the center of the page, that is the boundary. That's the HMLR title boundary with no features. So I don't know much more than that. But that's just what you would see if you didn't have MasterMap. That makes sense. But layering the land registry with the MasterMap, this is what you would get. So now I've got the detail of understanding there is a big store in the middle of the page and some features around the kind of car parking area. I understand my boundary of my building, but then I've also got my boundary title of the freehold extent and then the associated properties around that. Obviously, I've done that on a built-up area, but equally useful for when you're doing landscape design work or big renewable projects and you want to understand the fields and the boundaries and the associated buildings. So that's what I wanted to kind of illustrate in these images because I can't kind of show you in CAD myself. Going back to the platform. Once I've taken my property and added that to my basket, I will just add an additional format for you as well. So I would like the land registry as well, and I'll select my DWG format actually. Now I'll select it with building heights and also add that to my basket. So I'm happy with my searches. I've got my formats that I require. I've come in and added additional products, different features. I've got those into my basket. If for some reason you are not comfortable to purchase at this stage and you wanted to share that with a colleague, or it was a big area and you had some questions of our customer support team, you can save that shape and you can take that shape ID and send that to colleagues and clients to say, just want to confirm that that's my right area of interest. Or if you've got a product question, a price question that it doesn't price up on the left-hand side because it's such a big extent, then that will come through to our customer support team and we can help you with whatever your query is. So just be aware it's hidden under that question mark, and you can save shape. Equally, if you wanted to start a live chat or contact us in any way for any questions on accessing and using the platform, please do so. So I've taken my data into the basket and I want to check out the data. And then it's just a quick step-by-step guide, making sure that you've got the right formats, you're approving the licensing, and taking that through to processing and ordering the data. So just a couple quick steps in here that people miss is just making sure you've approved the license. Are you the declared end user? Make sure you select those boxes or not, and commit to payment. Now, just make sure you've got options here. Are you paying on credit card, or are you paying on account? We have both options for you. So reach out to us if you need to make any changes on the account. And then you can complete your order, which I won't do. But for your benefit, I would suggest adding a reference number and purchase order, if relevant, into the basket process. If for some reason you've made a mistake, you've ordered the wrong format, you want to reprocess the data in 3 to 6 months' time, you can do that through your account pages. I'm not going to show you the current account pages because I wanted to focus on what's coming soon, which I'm going to focus on switching across back to my slides. So I've gone through the order process, and I just wanted to kind of show what's coming soon rather than the kind of now. So for people that are regular users of eMapSite and reprocess data and want to see what they've got under license or within their company, this is a whole new look dashboard and account pages. eMapSite has invested in moving data into product into the cloud, and also improving efficiencies in terms of speed of accessing the data, and also look and feel, more functionality, the basket process. And our kind of final piece is now the kind of dashboard for you to kind of interact and use and check your data that you have. So just a few illustrations. This is a very sneak peek at this stage. Then if you want, by company or individually, want a more bespoke overview or want to be involved in testing or feedback on our account pages, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get your feedback on this. We've interacted with a number of customers who would very much like to have more people's views on how this is going to work for you day to day. So just a few illustrations, if you don't mind. So processing my order, I can access my data that I've personally ordered. I can take action from that, which may be reprocessing. I want to view the invoice. I want to check the expiry date. I want to change the format, a whole host of things that you can do going forward. If I want to download the data, I can do so, and it gives me those options. And then also, I want to view my history of orders. I want to go back over at company level. I want to check individual level. I want to do housekeeping to make sure the data that I'm working with is still under license. Many, many benefits of using the kind of improved design and functionality around our account pages. Hopefully that's a kind of a good sneak peek of those account pages, but I will be doing a webinar in the new year, going into a lot more detail and talking through the workflow in much more granularity. Finally, I've kind of covered off high level the 3 key products I wanted to cover, which is the OS MasterMap with Terrain 5, and the option to have the land registry data. There is a whole host of other product suites, but by all means, tap into those if you want to. If you've got questions, feedback, views, feelings on the webinar or EMAP site, please reach out to me. And I will, in the meantime, process the recording and send that out to yourselves so you can share that internally. Hope this was useful. It's a quick overview of the suite of OS MasterMap products. And for now, I'm going to just quickly check questions before we leave. Okay, everything looks good there. Okay, so I've got one question, excellent. And I've covered off the other questions as well. So the question I've got is, does it cover unregistered land? So I've worked with land registry for quite a few years now, and give or take about 85% of the country is now registered. Most of the unregistered land in the country is rural farmland that's gone through generation to generation and not been registered. Randomly, there are pieces of Liverpool Street train station in London that's wasn't registered a while ago, and my dad's house is always my joke at this stage, but it will only tell you what registered boundaries there are. So if you are looking at rural locations, and there are, easiest way of describing it, if you're walking down my dad's street, I can see polygon, 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 and then I can see a gap, no polygon for his property, and then Nick's polygon. So it's not then obviously defined and not registered anywhere. Obviously giving you that title number, if it is registered, and then interacting with that. If you wanted the commercial ownership in these areas, then come and work with me and we'll extract that data to suit the project that you're working on. Hopefully I've answered that question. Yes, excellent. So I've got no other questions. I very much appreciate you investing the time to join the webinar today. Again, if you've got any other questions, please reach out to me. And I look forward to working with you in the future. Many thanks for your time. Bye for now.